Good afternoon, everyone. I am Apple May Sobrera, a Bachelor of Elementary Education student. For today's discussion, I will going to discuss to you about variance from group data using midpoint method. So, variance from group data is applied when the number of cases is equal to or more than 30. So, as you can see here, we have the computation of variance from group data using midpoint method. So, our table has 5 columns, which is in first column, we have the class limits. In second column, we have the F or the frequency. In third column, we have the M or midpoint. In fourth column, we have the FM. In fifth column, we have the FM2. So if you are confused on how to get the class limit and the frequency, I will show to you the step on how to get this. So in arranging the score in a form of frequency distribution, we need to follow steps. So we have here the data. So this is the scores of the student who take the test in mathematics. So to start with, let's start with the step 1, which is find the absolute range. So in finding the absolute range, we need to subtract the highest score and the lowest score. First, you need to locate the highest score and the lowest score here in our data. So our highest score in our data is 116. So highest score 116 and the lowest score is 66. Lowest score. After locating the highest score and the lowest score, let's subtract it. So 116 minus 66 is equal to 50. So this will be our range. Next step, step 2, which is find the class interval. So in finding the class interval, we simply divide the range by 10 and by 20. So since our range is 50, let's divide it by 10 and by 20. So now we have the range divided by 10 is equal to 5. Next, we have the range of 50 divided by 20 is equal to 2.5. Okay, so we will choose 5 as our class interval to use in our class next step. So next, we have the step 3, set up the classes. So in setting up classes, simply add class interval divided by 2 or 1/2 of the class interval to the highest score, which is 116, and subtracts class interval divided by 2 to the highest score. So we have here C or the class interval, which is 5 divided by 2. So we have here 5 divided by 2 is equal to 2.5. Now let's add and subtract 2.5 to the highest score, which is 116. So we have here the result. 116 plus 2.5 is equal to 118.5. Next, 116 minus 2.5 is equal to 113.5. So this will be our real limit, the 118.5 and the 113.5. In getting real limit, subtract 5 as class interval from the lower class limit up to the lowest class limit. So, we need to subtract 5 in each class limit. So, in lower class limit, we need to subtract 5 to get each value. And also, in higher class limit, let's subtract 5 up to the end. So, 113.5 minus 5 is equal to 108.5. Okay, next, 108.5 minus 5 is equal to 103.5. Next, 103.5 minus 5 is equal to 98.5, and so on and so forth. Next, here in our higher class limit, we have 118.5. So let's subtract 5. 118.5 minus 5, the result is 113.5. So 113.5 minus 5, the result is 108.5. Next, 108.5 minus 5, the result is 103.5, and so on and so forth. Just subtract 5 in each lower or higher limit. So next, to convert real limit, to convert real limit to integral limit, subtract 0.5 from the upper class limit. So let's subtract 0.5 in the upper class limit, and let's add 0.5 to the lower class limit, which is here. Now, let's solve for it first. 113.5 plus 0.5, the result is 114. Okay? Next, 118.5 minus 0.5, the result is 118. Okay, next, 108.5 plus 0.5 is equal to 109. Next, we have 113.5 minus 0.5, the result is 130, and so on and so forth. Just subtract 0.5 in the higher real limit and add 0.5 in the lower real limit to get the integral limit. Okay? Now, we will go to in distributing the frequency. So, in distribution of frequency, we need the data for you to get the frequency. So, now, let's start in the lower class limit or integral limit. So, we have here the 64 to 68. So, why 5? Okay, why the frequency in 64 to 68 is 5? So, we simply locate the score that belongs in 64 to 68. So, we have here the number of 64, 65, 67, and 68. So, locate the score inside of 64 and 268 rather. So, to start with 64 to 68. So, our last number is 68. So, let's start with 64. We have no 64. Next, we have no 65. 66, we have 66. So, 66, 67, 67, 67, 68. So, 68. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 score of students who take the test in mathematics. So, we put 5. Next, 69 to 73. So, locate the score that belongs or inside of 69 to 73. We have 69, 70, 71, 72, and 73. So, let's start with 69. We have 69, 70, 70, 71, 72, 72, 73. So, until 73. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, we have 8 score, which we put 8. Okay, next, in 74 to 78. So, we have 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. So, let's locate 74 to 78. 75. 75, 76, 76, and 78. So, we have 78. So, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, 5 score, which is, so that the frequency is 5. Next, in 79 to 83. So, 79, 70, 80, 81, 82, 83. So 79 to 73. 79. So we have 80, 81, 82, 81, 82. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have the 4 score that belongs in 79 to 83, which is both 4. So that is how to get the frequency. You need to base integral limit here in our data. So now we have already the real limit, or this will be our class limit and our frequency. So since we have already the class limit and the frequency, let's proceed in getting the midpoint, FM, and FM2 to complete our data in computing variance from group data using midpoint method. So in getting the midpoint, let's get the sum of lower class limit and higher class limit and divide it to 2. So the sum of 113.5 and 118.5 is 232. So 232 divided by 2, the result is 116. Next, the sum of 108.5 and 113.5 is 222. 222 divided by 2, the result is 111. Next, the sum of 103.5 and 108.5 is 212. So 212 divided by 2, the result is 106, and so on and so forth. Just get the sum of lower class limit and higher class limit and divide it to 2 to get the midpoint. Okay, let's proceed. So now, let's apply our step in getting variance from group data, which is multiply the frequency by the midpoint to get FM. So let's multiply the frequency into our midpoint. So 3 times 116, the result is 348. Next, 5 times 111 is equal to 555. Next, 1 times 106 is equal to 106. Next, 3 times 101, the result is 303, and so on and so forth. So, after getting the value, let's apply our second step, which is add all FM values to get the sum of FM. So, after getting the value of FM, let's add all of value to get the sum of FM. So, we already have the result, which is 4,395. Okay. Next, let's apply our third step, which is multiply FM by M to get FM2 as shown in the fifth column. So let's multiply FM by M. So 348 times 116, the result is 40,368. Next, 555 times 111, the result is 61,605. Next, 106 times 106, the result is 11,236. Next, 303 times 101, the result is 30,303, and so on and so forth. Just repeat the process. Multiply FM by M to get FM2. Okay, so next, let's apply our fourth step, which is sum all the values of FM2 to get the sum of FM2. So now, after getting the value of FM2, let's add all of these values. So we have the result of 398,365. So now let's proceed in the computation using the formula of midpoint method. So our given To easily solve or substitute the formula, let's have the given first, which is n. We have 20. This is the total of frequency, 50. The sum of Fm, which is 4,395. The sum of Fm2, which is 398,365. So now our formula for the midpoint method is SD squared is equal to n times sum of Fm2 minus sum of Fm squared divided by n squared minus n. So SD squared in our formula stands for variance, n stands for number of cases. Sum of Fm2 stands for sum of the product of Fm times m. Then the sum of Fm stands for sum of the product of frequency times midpoint. Next, n, number of cases. So to substitute, let's substitute first in the upper part. So n, let's substitute 50. Next, substitute summation of Fm2, which is 398,365. Next, substitute sum of Fm, which is 4,395 squared divided by n squared, which is 50 squared minus n 50. So now let's solve it first. 50 times 398,365, the result is 19,918,250. Next, let's get the square of 4,395. The result is 19,316,025. Next, let's get the square of 50, which is 2,500 minus 50. So let's subtract this. 19,918,250 minus 19,316,025. The result is 602,225. Next, let's subtract 2,500 minus 50. The result is 2,450. So after that, let's divide this. 602,225 divided by 2,450. The result is 245.806125. So that will be our SD squared. Okay, so that is the process, the step on how to compute the variance from group data using midpoint method.